Hey everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault, and once again I'm coming to you with another range report. And today's range report is on something new and interesting. This is the Smith Wesson FPC. I think it stands for the Folding Pistol Carbine. So if you have not seen this gun, you're missing out. This is something that's really cool. As you see, it folds to the side, and I think Smith & Wesson is trying to compete with Kel-Tec and their SUB-2000. So this is their concept and take on this type of gun. Obviously, this is going to be chambered in 9mm, and it is based off of the M&P series of pistols, which makes it kind of nice, especially if you're a fan of those pistols. There are a lot of things about this gun that I like and don't like, and it's obvious that they took some cues from Kel-Tec. And sometimes that can be a bad thing, because Kel-Tec, as I say, is a very innovative company. And I think Smith & Wesson is really trying to up their game as well. And I love it when companies come out with new and innovative things. However, when it comes to Kel-Tec, I don't think their execution is the best it could be. But maybe Smith & Wesson has rectified some of that and takes these great concepts and builds something truly quality out of them. But before I get into those things that I like and don't like, as always, I want to thank the people that make these videos possible. First and foremost is the owner of this really cool carbine. His name is Richard. Richard, thank you so much again for lending such a cool gun to the channel. I always want to thank my Patreons as well, because through their monthly donations and support, they help keep the lights on. You guys know us content creators are always in a battle with YouTube, and they help keep all this content coming. And as always, I want to thank my primary sponsor who provides all of the ammunition for these range reports. His name is Mark, and he's from a great company called Brownworks. And I know if you're a fan of the Texas Gun Vault and have been watching for a while, you guys know I rant and rave about Brownworks. Brownworks is a custom grip company producing some of the world's finest grips for a wide variety of firearms out of a wide variety of exotic woods and materials. I keep telling you guys, Mark is an artist. He's a craftsman. He is innovative, just like Smith & Wesson is with this folding carbine. He's always coming out with new and creative designs and products. In fact, I know you might not even be in the market for wood panel grips for your firearms. You might be all into modern sporting rifles. Well, Mark has a product for you. How about some wood grips for, yes, AR-15s. What other grip company offers such a cool thing? I know it might not be everyone's cup of tea, but you know you're going to get some really cool looks at the range with that. No one else has products like that, and that's why Brownworks is so awesome. So I'm going to put a link in the comments section below, as well as a coupon code for 10% off your first order. I'm going to ask that you guys go over there, check out, and see what he has to offer. And as always, if you don't find what you're looking for, make sure to contact Mark. He has great customer service, and when you do, please tell him the Texas Gun Vault sent you. Alright, so let's talk about the things that I like and don't like. And let's start off with the concept. You guys know I'm a huge fan of pistol caliber carbines. In fact, they are probably my favorite type of firearms to own, shoot, and collect. There's just something about them that interests me. Having the ability to shoot a pistol caliber through a platform like this is pretty cool. Now, obviously, Smith & Wesson did not invent this concept. I'm pretty sure they borrowed it from Kel-Tec. The Smith & Wesson folds to the side, where I know the SUB-2000 folds upward, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit, but it still folds up into a nice little package here. And this is a great gun if you're looking for something like a truck gun, something to travel with. In fact, the owner of this, Richard, told me that's primarily the reason that he bought it. So when he travels, he can fold this up. It's a non-NFA item. It has a 16-inch barrel, so he can travel across state lines. It's just like any other rifle that you would buy, but it is very compact. And that brings me to the case, and I think this is something that should be noted. Normally I don't talk about the packaging and the cases in these range reports, but in this gun I think it's definitely worthy of doing so. Here we have this gray case, and this is the one that comes with the gun. It looks kind of bland and boring, but I actually think that is a big plus, because it doesn't look like this is a gun case. It doesn't look like there would be a gun in this case at all. So if it's in your car, in your back seat, nobody would know, or if you walk into a hotel or you're traveling with this, nobody would have any idea what's inside. It is not branded in any way, shape, or form. It's very nice in that. And when you open it up, You have lots of room for accessories, magazines. It even has straps to hold the firearm. To me, this is the absolute perfect case if you're going to use this as a truck gun and to travel with it, because people would just look at that case and move on, especially if they're looking to steal something. It looks kind of boring and nobody would know you have a folding carbine in that. I think it's kind of brilliant, and I'm glad they didn't put the logo on it, otherwise people would pretty much know what's inside. Now when it comes to the design of this gun, as I mentioned before, it is based off of the M&P series. So here we have what looks like the grip module of a M&P 9. Mainly the 2.0 because it has the same type of texture and the removable back straps. So if you like the M&P series, it's gonna feel pretty darn close to that. Even the trigger works exactly the same. I think this trigger is a little bit heavier. It has to be redesigned just a little bit. But if you like the M&P series, you'll like this grip module, as well as the fact the magazines are interchangeable. That's a huge plus. Now I know a lot of people, when it comes to guns like this, they're like, does it take Glock mags? Well, M&P is not going to make a gun that takes Glock mags, but I think those M&P mags are just as good. And in some ways, I think they're a little bit better because they're made of metal and not polymer. But some people are going to like that, and I think if you like the Smith & Wesson pistols, this would be a great addition to your collection because you have so much interchangeability between them. Essentially, it's like an M&P 9 but in carbine form. And the last thing that I want to talk about that I really like about this gun is the fact that it does come with a threaded barrel. So if you have any accessories like a suppressor, which I'm not going to use in this range report because YouTube is not a big fan of us using suppressors and putting them on and taking them off of guns. They call that gun modification. But if you had a suppressor, you could definitely mount it to that. So I do appreciate the fact they do thread their barrels. So now let's talk about a couple things about this gun that I don't like. The first one is going to be a little bit about the concept of this gun, and that is it folds to the side. The one thing that I do like about the Kel-Tecs is that they fold up, and it keeps the package a little bit thinner. So when this is in the case, it is a little bit on the thick side. And I do think folding upwards and over is a little bit better of a design. I like the fact it folds, but I would like to see it fold in that other direction just because I think it actually puts it in a little bit smaller package and it's easier to carry. Then something that I think that they borrowed from Kel-Tec that I do not like is the fact that the handguard is polymer. Now I know this is not going to be a go-to-war rifle. I totally get that, but this handguard is polymer. It does save weight, but it's also held together by, yeah, screws. I don't like it when gun companies use screws. This is very much like Kel-Tec. It does add a little bit of cheapness and a feel of cheapness to this rifle. Now, as I said, I know they're looking for something that is compact and light. And also, it has to line up with the charging handle in the back. That's how this folding unit locks into place. It locks around the M-LOK rail, and all you have to do is pull the charging handle down a little bit, and it unlocks it. But I really would like to see some metal options, something in aluminum that doesn't have these screws. And there's a lot of screws in this gun, even here on the back of the receiver. You guys can see it right there. I don't know, anytime I see screws on a gun, it just makes me feel like it is cheap. I don't want things that are clamshelled together. I want things that are milled out of pieces of aluminum or steel. But yeah, it just makes the gun feel a little bit cheap. Then I gotta talk about the controls. Now, one of the things I mentioned you might like about this gun is the fact it uses the M&P style of pistol grip. However, because now you have this stock, I find personally, if you want to get to the magazine release, which is in the typical place, you have to adjust your arm a little bit, because if my arm is on the other side of the stock, I cannot get to that magazine release. I have to take the stock, move it over, and now I can get that magazine to drop free. So I find that to be less than ergonomic. I wish there was another way to drop the magazine. Maybe I could take my non-shooting hand, bring it down, and this is what I did in the videos, and I can drop the magazines that way, but therefore I'm moving this hand, which is supporting the rifle. So it's just something that you would have to get used to. The same thing can be said for the bolt release, which is right up here, and it's the same spot where your slide stop would be in most pistols. But if I want to get to it, I have to take the gun, unshoulder it, rotate it, which of course, I could end up inadvertently flagging somebody with the end of the barrel to simply drop the slide. I'm not a big fan of that. I want to keep my gun pointed down range at all times, and I can't always reach those controls. When it comes to the stock, this is non-adjusting. It's not telescoping. It looks like it might be, but it's not. I kind of wish this was actually a little bit shorter. Now, it may have to be this length because of NFA regulations that guns have to be a certain overall length. I'm not 100% sure. I haven't measured it, but I wish this stock had a little bit more adjustment. Actually, I normally like guns to be a little bit longer in the length of pull. This one feels a little bit too long for me for what the gun is. I just wish that I could adjust that just a little bit. So I know that I've been talking about a number of things about this gun that probably people are going to absolutely love, but maybe I don't like. People love the Kel-Tec SUB-2000s for some reason. I'm not the world's biggest fan, but I'm hoping this is going to change my mind on this type of firearm. So we're going to go ahead and take this thing to the range. As always, I'm going to start off with the target at about 10 yards when it comes to a rifle. I'm just curious how this gun shoots, what the accuracy is like, what the felt recoil is like. Am I going to encounter any issues when it comes to reliability? And generally just see if I discover anything about this gun that I like or don't like from that experience. So let's get this thing to the range, let's load up a magazine and see how it shoots. All right, and all I can tell you is this gun is a lot more fun to shoot than I was expecting it to be. It feels great. It feels like a Smith Wesson M&P 9 with just a longer barrel. It's a lot of fun to shoot, and obviously it's very accurate. The trigger is very reminiscent of those pistols. The only thing that you may notice is the recoil is a little bit more than maybe what you think you would expect from a 9mm like this. Of course, the gun is very light, but because this is going to be direct blowback, it doesn't have any type of locking mechanism, you have a very heavy bolt in here that is reciprocating coming back into your shoulder. It's not bad. It's just a little bit more of a thud than you might expect from a gun that looks like this and is chambered in 9mm. But man, is this thing a lot of fun. All right, so let's set out the target at a little bit further distance, see what happens to this group. I'm going to go for the head on this IDPA target and see if this thing is accurate at a little bit further distance. Yeah, this thing is awesome, and these sights for me are right on. They might be a little bit high and to the left, but they're great. Now, there is one thing about the sights that I do not like, and I only started to notice this at the further distances, and maybe if you're a little bit older, like I am, and are starting to have some vision problems, yeah, I'm not as young as I used to be, the sight radius of this is a little bit on the short side, and the rear sight is kind of far away from your eyes. So when you shoulder this, normally I'm used to rear sights on rifles like this being a lot closer. Here, they're way far out there. So I'm using the larger aperture on these Magpul flip-up sights, but I find them a little bit harder to use because of that shorter sight radius and that rear sight being so far up. And that might play into a little bit of the inaccuracy that you might experience. Right now, the rifle is shooting great, but I have a a feeling at further and further distances, if you try to take this thing out to 50 yards or beyond, you might start having some issues with that if you're not running some type of optic. But then the rail is only here on the handguard. You don't have rails here in the back to mount a red dot. So that red dot has to be mounted very far to the front, which of course is going to weigh down the front. So I kind of wish they had designed it where you had a rear sight towards the back. But so far, it is doing great, and I'm very impressed. So now I'm going to bench rest this, and I know I'm only going out to 25 yards. This, after all, is a pistol caliber carbine, most likely designed as a truck gun. You're not going to have many engagements beyond that distance. And remember, I'm just an average gun guy at my range. So I'm going to bench rest this. I'm going to go for the center of the next target. I want to see what happens to this group. So far, the gun's been super accurate, so I'm expecting great results here. So let's see what happens.
Let us know. We got some micros if you like. Micro knives, they're basically a genre.
All right, and we have some pretty good accuracy, no problems there. However, there is something I'm starting to notice about the trigger, and that is at these further distances, I'm really trying to stage the trigger, and this trigger is a little bit mushy. It is like an M&P 9, so if you're looking for a match grade rifle with this, I don't think you're going to get it. Now, I'm not 100% certain if those aftermarket triggers that you find in the M&P series could be dropped into this, or if those companies are making triggers for this gun. That would be a really nice upgrade. The trigger as it sits, I think, is great as a personal defense or combat trigger, but if you're wanting to do a little bit more precise work, you might want to see if you can upgrade this. But overall, it's a lot of fun, and for me, it's very accurate. Now, the next thing I want to do is see about using this in some type of self-defense scenario. As you notice, there are two magazines here in the back of the stock, and I have an issue with these. It is a cool idea that you get two extra mags that can be fully loaded here, but getting them out can be kind of weird. You'll notice that there is a little lever here, and if you want to get out the magazine that is on one side, you have to push the button on the other. So if I want to get, for example, this magazine out, I push the button here, and that magazine can be pulled out. So that's a little bit counterintuitive. I understand how the button is designed, and I definitely think it works, but I also noticed from fiddling around with it here in the garage, if I tried to change the magazines out fast and I want to keep the gun pretty much close to shouldered, one side is a lot easier to get to than the other. So the magazine closest to me is easy to reach. I can reach this button and simply pull it out. But if I want to get this one out, this is a lot harder because I have to put my thumb here and I can't really get to this magazine very well and very fast. Now, I kind of figured out how to do it. I got to use my pinky, but in a very fast self-defense scenario, you might not be able to do that. So I'm going to try to do a quick magazine change. I'm going to shoot the gun as fast as I can. I'm then going to try to pull the magazine from essentially the left side and then the right side and see if I have any issues and how fast I can do this. I think I can shoot the gun fast, but these magazine changes might be a little bit of an issue. So let's see how I do and if I encounter any issues. All right, so it's pretty obvious you can shoot this gun fast. The trigger is pretty good for that. However, when it comes to the ergonomics of changing these magazines out, you have some issues. Not only did I have issues getting the magazines out of the stock, I also have to turn the gun a little bit to get the magazine out of the grip. Now, at this range, and you can see where I was filming, I was up against a wall. So when I turned the gun a little bit to the side, I would not be flagging anybody with the barrel of the gun. But I could see in some situations, because one of the rules of gun safety is never point the barrel at anything you don't want to kill or destroy. If you're trying to get that out fast, you might have to turn the gun to the side to drop that magazine if you're going to use your thumb. I kind of feel like that could be a safety issue, and it takes the gun away from your shoulder, so it slowed me down. So getting this out slowed me down. The magazine release kind of slowed me down in the pistol grip, so we had some issues there. So you might have to see about maybe possibly redesigning this, or definitely practicing with these magazine releases to be able to run this fast in a run and gun scenario. But now another test, because you want to know if you're going to use this for home defense or maybe a truck gun, you want to use hollow point ammunition. So sometimes these pistol caliber carbines that use direct blowback will have issues with some hollow points. So I'm going to run a magazine of hollow points through it, see if it affects anything, see if I have any issues. I'm not expecting to, but you never know, but it's good to be careful. So let's see how this thing runs with hollow points.
I walked away from here. I got taking the brass out of my pockets. It's a trick when some of them are zipper pops.
And as expected, it ran fine, no issues, and I could definitely see using this as a home defense gun or a truck gun. If you're out and about and you gotta have a rifle, having this thing loaded up with some hollow points might be a really good idea. All right, so before I give my wife Becky a chance to shoot this, I want to give you guys a little bit of what I call gun porn. I think I can shoot this thing pretty fast. So I'm going to load up one of these larger magazines. I'm going to shoot this thing as fast as I possibly can and just have some fun with it. And you know, for dumping those rounds as fast as I possibly could, the gun was pretty accurate. Everything was on target. That's a lot of fun. This is honestly a very fun gun, and it does get the 5-star fun gun factor. So in my review, even though this thing might not get a 5-star overall review, if you ask me if it's a great gun to shoot, well, yeah, it is. It's just a lot of fun. I could see spending many hours at the range having a blast with this thing. All right, I want to give my wife Becky a chance to shoot this. You guys know I always like to give her a chance to shoot every gun that comes through the Texas Gun Vault and get her perspective, because she's a different type of shooter than I am. So let me load up another magazine and see what she has to say about this firearm. And this is kind of a surprise. Normally when she shoots these guns, often she's better than I am. And she was not as accurate with this gun as I was. And she told me she didn't like the fact that the rear sight was so far forward and she was having a hard time seeing it. But she liked everything else about the gun. She said it felt comfortable in her hand and in her shoulder, and it was a lot of fun to shoot. And she actually asked me, can you put a red dot on it? I was like, yeah, we could, but we didn't have one there at the range. But I think this thing set up with the right optic would be a lot of fun and even more accurate, especially for her. All right, so what are my final thoughts on the Smith & Wesson FPC folding pistol caliber carbine? Well, this is definitely a cool, fun, and innovative rifle. However, it does have a few shortcomings that I would like to see addressed. I've talked about those in the early parts of the range report. This handguard is polymer. It's held together by screws. It makes me feel like it's a Kel-Tec, and I don't like that. I expect more from Smith & Wesson. I think they need to redesign these magazine compartments in the stock to make them easier to get out quick, and they need to redesign the controls. But the gun is fun, and the gun is accurate. It's an absolute blast to shoot. And I would like to see it fold up and not to the side, but that's honestly not a deal breaker. And the case it comes with, I think, is perfect for its philosophy of use if you're buying the gun as a truck gun or something to travel with. So overall, so much about this gun that has impressed me and I like, and a few things I would like to see upgraded. But I don't think those upgrades will be too much of a big deal for Smith & Wesson to address. But I know they think about every aspect of this gun when it comes to price and who the audience is and the whole philosophy of use. But who knows, maybe there are companies in the aftermarket that are making these upgrades that you can add yourself. And in the future, you might see more be developed. So on my star system, how would I rate the Smith & Wesson FPC? Well, I give it a solid 4 out of 5 stars. If it wasn't so cheaply made, and I don't mean that in a very derogatory way, it just has all those screws and polymer. And if it didn't have all of those control issues, it would easily be a 5-star review because this gun shoots great. It's accurate for me. I love the philosophy of use. I love the innovation. The execution just needs to be a little bit better. So what do you guys think? Is this a gun that interests you? Do you guys like folding pistol caliber carbines or folding guns in general? And do you own any of them? Do you own this gun? I would love to know if your thoughts mirror mine. So, as always, thanks for watching.